It could be heading your way. It could be Tuesday, Tuesday, Tuesday. The day that time forgot. That's right, friends. Huh? Yeah. Do you think I just sit around all week eating bonbons and stuff? You know, waiting for 1 hour. There's like 160 some hours in a week. The rest of them I just sit around and try to plan and scheme and think, what can I do that will be new and different? Forget it. Let's just do the old stuff again. That's how my brain works. At this point in my illustrious career, having worn out most of the brain cells or blown them out completely earlier in life. Now, I've got a little softer lighting tonight. I hope that's okay. The person I need to please the most is my mom, if she happens to be here. She was the one who said, I can't see you. You need stronger lighting. But I like a little bit softer, It also helps when I'm reading poetry because I can see the page better. Bill. Fellas introduced me to this fine cocktail by Dave Veldhuizen. Veldhuizen, get it? Really enjoying this cocktail. This is the Bourbon Renewal. Dave Veldhuizen? She learned that from Dave? Cool. Veldhuizen. Oh, man. That guy was something, man. He still is, probably. I wonder if he still does rock climbing. Back in college, I always wanted to be more like Dave Veldhuizen. It was one of those aspirations that, because he was one of those real sinewy guys. And I was always kind of dumpy and frumpy. Dumpy, frumpy Bill. That was me. First person to say shut up and sing, and it's fine. But tonight's going to be extra casual because I got this neck thing going on. So I have no idea. I told Tim. Tim and I have been talking about this all week. Tim Schwanler of Tamitra fame. Oh, by the way, we have to report a casualty here in the treehouse. I had a mishap with the Cam and Pete mug. You can see it's now an amputee. I do have the parts, and I will super glue it. But I'm like, okay, but this is a hefty mug. It's got heft to it. Is that super glue going to hold? I don't know. I didn't want to test it out, in the treehouse itself. So I've got it up here in the Hall of Fame, right next to Mickey Mouse runs his own newspaper. And we'll see how it goes. But in its place, I've had to bring in a Bill and Diane show mug. Limited edition. That's actually product placement. That's probably a plug for something that, It does the same thing that Tamitra mug does. It kind of does something to the light when you hold it up close. Makes it kind of dark. Oh, yeah. Very interesting. Anyway, that's that. Thanks, Ma. Tamitra. Rick Lewis and any other citizens of the Motel Valley where light snow is falling as we speak. Oh, man. Goodness gracious. Wish I had more Motel Valley people joining us here in this cozy space. It should be like being around the fire. Big teeth, big horn, big daddy storm blows inland. Little baby cry, baby won't buy into his plan. What would appear to be the problem here? An unguarded eagle and a human tear. Step back, hit a rack, study the room you abandoned. For once in your life there were stripes on the sun. And once in your life there's a moment like this one. A moment like this one. Work, dream, airstream, light up the room with your endings. Dry fire hot stove shot, what is that stuff you are spending? Where does the money go and where's it made? While old Joe Average sits in the shade, runs like a bug through the system on which we're depending. For once in your life there are stripes on the sun, and once in your life there is a moment like this one, a moment like this one. Sick boy, lost toy, shut up, you don't have to tell me. I see the rise in the poles and the swelling repels me. Won't clean up what hasn't paid off yet. Does this sound like anyone that you've ever met? Maybe the one with the push button gun on the TV. For once in your life there are stripes on the sun, and once in your life there is a moment like this one, a moment like once in your life there are stripes on the sun, and once in your life there is a moment like this one, or this one, or this one. Okay, so now we're underway. Right. How far into this are we? I don't know. I don't have a ticker. Yeah, it's all empty in here. No ticker. No ticker. Sorry. What can I say? What can I do? Where can I go? Who can I talk to? I can talk to you people, right? Because it's been an interesting week or two here. And I should mention that I've been receiving gifts since I've been complaining about my neck. My friend Henry sent me this wonderful thing. It's one of those things that you can heat up in the microwave, and it stays warm, and it kind of does this on your neck, which has been great, except that I've been putting it in the freezer because I've discovered that cold is working better on this neck problem than heat. I've used heat on other neck problems. The other nice thing, Henry, is that I can lay it right under my pillow, at night. So when I lay down, I've got this nice cool thing on my neck and my head's still on my pillow. It's perfect. And if I roll over during the night and I still got cool on my neck. So I feel great about that. But I'm not the only one who received gifts. The Hand, bring it in, Hand. The Hand also received gifts from Henry. Check that out. He sent her this lovely cup. Got to go in a little farther, Hand. Come towards me. There you go. That's it. Oh, look at that lovely thing. Henry sent that to the Hand. It came with the silver spoon that's in it and everything like that. Can't see you there, Hand. There you go. We thank you, Henry, for the lovely gifts. And that's a very cool thing. And also the Hand has brought the usual... Wait, what am I, chopped liver? Ooh. The Hand, fragrant. Yes. Let's see. Charlotte, Henry, and Stephen. Yes. Ed Rundle. Ed Rundle's in the house. There's another Methowian. Good to see you, sir. You're not out night skiing somewhere on some high mountain cliff? Bill Woolham, Val Sanford, Cindy Clark, Cindy Snyder, Mark Kenny, Linda Hunvan. Welcome back, Lindy. Katrina Knight in the house. Oh, lovely. This is great. We got a quorum. People. So, nursing the neck, wearing the guitar does not But sometimes the moving around, I hit it, you go the wrong way. So if I'm like singing along as in, well, you hear it like something like that, and you'll know that I turned the wrong way or something. I don't know. I think it's getting better, but it's been very slow. It's probably because I'm old. Things take longer to heal when you're old. Yeah, I got something to look forward to there, Henry. Yeah. One of many things. We'll talk. It'll be okay. Okay. So I've got some songs on here. Do you think I should sing them? You think I should? Is the world ready? Speaking of kids, I'm going to sing my Empty Nest song because I haven't sung that very much. But I was playing it today and saying, this is a process song, which means it was one of those ones that I needed to write. But I wrote this in a motel room in Twisp. So in honor of Ed Rundle being here, along with Rick Lewis and anybody else from the Motel who happens to be here, who has ever been in the Motel, this is my Empty Nest song. It's called the Blue Spruce Motel. And those of you who live in the Motel know exactly what I'm talking about. I think it was in room 2. Well, it's the closest, when you're heading out of town, it's the farthest out of town, second room from the end. So just off the highway. I don't know, maybe it wasn't room 2. I don't know, maybe it was room 4. Maybe it was room 61. Maybe it didn't have a number at all. Maybe it was 00. License to Kill. Motel coffee in a styrofoam cup. Laid down real late, gotta get up. Visiting the children, the old man's back. Ashes on the asphalt of a 2-lane track. Singing remember me. Friends are scattered between these hills. Mountain heat waves, rivers chills. Cool that forehead, stretch that back. Time is precious, it's time we lack. Singing remember me. Motel coffee clears my head. Better than a bar room or a motel bed. Bedside Bible in an empty drawer. Lay my clean shirts on the motel floor. Little bitty Jesus in a little bitty room. A little bit lonely, gotta head back soon. Take a boy to breakfast, take a girl to lunch. Hello and goodbye and feel that punch. Singing remember me. Singing please remember me. Talk about tender, talk about tough. Talk about money, how's this ever enough? Those 20 fingers, those 20 toes, got their own directions, gotta let them go. Got their own directions, gotta let them go. Singing remember me. Singing please remember me. Singing please remember. I start to weep if I picture myself in that motel room that night. I think I stayed 2 nights. Yeah. some rough time. I had a hard time letting go of my kids. I had a rough time doing that. But I guess everybody does, huh? Everybody does. Everybody has a rough time. You get used to them being around, don't you? Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious, Bill. Bill? All right. Well. Did you hear a rattle? Did someone hear a... Once again. Be right with me. Scott and Rhonda. Hi, you guys. Jeff, Steve, and I think Ann. Is it Ann? Diane writes these notes very fast. Jeff and Jeff, who's your friend? Jeff. Jeff and Ann. I'm going to say Ann. From Utah. They delivered a kayak to Minnesota. Wait, so where are you? Don't you live in California? Jeff, we need a locator. Somebody put a tracking device on that guy. So are you in Minnesota? Are you in Utah? Are you in California? I'm dizzy. I'm sorry. I'm gonna need a little something. What was I gonna do? Oh, I don't think I'll do this first. Jeff, we need to know where you are, Jeff. It's not just me. Bill needs to know. Probably other people need to know. Val, maybe other Whitworthians, other Whitworth types might need to know. Utah. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. I wasn't trying to be pushy or anything like that. So you already delivered the kayak to Minnesota? They delivered a kayak to Minnesota. Was that pretty one you've been showing pictures of on your Facebook page? You mean you got rid of that? Would you give it away? What? While the age of mystery is floating out to sea, no one escapes the clock on the wall. And how many repetitions till you've seen it all? You were the silencer, you were the victim here. It didn't matter what you thought or what you learned. You got a lot of it, it fascinates me. Once in a while I revert to childhood to see if magic's still a possibility. Sometimes it is and sometimes it matters, but how can it matter when it matters most to me? And yes, it bothers me, then I explode a lot. One little doubt turns into two, turns into three. You got a lot of it, it fascinates me. Up your phone book, tear all the M's out, make lots of pretty little origami men. Cute little names and cute little numbers. Let someone try to call you antisocial then. And yes, it's criminal the way they hounded you, as if insurance were the answer to your prayers. You got a lot of it, it fascinates me. Yes, it's criminal the way they hounded you, as as if insurance were the answer to your prayers. You got a lot of it. Come on, Bill. Diane likes that one. Diane likes that one. The reason I got kind of weirded out there right at the end is I was thinking, wow, somebody's going to have to explain to Henry what a phone book is. Yeah. Phone books. See, my songs are starting to be dated. Wow. Now, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, people? So we'll pause here for a moment so Charlotte and Stefan can explain to Henry what a phone book is. Or maybe they've still got an antique one laying around they could show him. Or maybe they saved one for archival purposes. Okay. Alrighty. So is everybody okay? I'm not being too weird, am I? Yeah. Does it look like I'm... No? Okay. I always do this. I always start apologizing for how I am, and then my friend Tim will talk to me the next day and say, you know, nobody can tell that you're in pain. Nobody can tell that you're feeling like a total weirdo. But you keep harping on it, so then everybody has to know. Maybe if you didn't mention it so much, everybody would just be kind of yippee skipping down the bunny trail, and wouldn't be worried about it. But I think you're getting to know me. I think you're starting to understand the kind of complexes, the kind of grinding gears that It's pretty noisy up here most days. That's why it's better to play songs. It's better. It's always better to play songs. I always feel better when I play songs, so why would I ever think that it's not the right thing to do? Can we agree that this is holding us together in some kind of way? Because it certainly is for me. Because I've gotten used to having a certain kind of, interaction, support, positive feedback, all of that kind of stuff over the years. So the idea of not getting any of it, I don't even want to think about what I would be like without that. So if you're getting something from this, trust me, you're giving more than you're getting, probably. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to work those metrics, but someday in the future, since all these things are up on YouTube, someday in the future, somebody will be doing some kind of a sociological study, and they'll be figuring out, at what point did Bill really start to lose the audience? When did they all start to turn on him? People will be writing papers about stuff. Okay, never mind. I love this guitar. It just sounds so good. I was thinking about changing the strings today, and I thought, man, these strings sound good. These strings sound good. They would sound good doing a song like starting out from Libby Creek, tent stakes and hay rakes, old habits and new breaks, notice how it shows. Starting out from Libby Creek, garlic farm in the Met How, yes, veggie and no cow, notice how it shows. Starting out from Libby Creek, 100-year-old farmhouse, cat chasing a field mouse, notice where she goes. Starting out from Libby Creek, all day on a hillside, lose the boots and come inside, notice how it glows. Climb right out of your skin, trade your ends for begins, all your best friends dropping in. Yeah, yeah. Starting out from Libby Creek, backpacking to Oval Peak, the head is high and the legs are weak, notice how it shows. Starting out from Libby Creek, you can't dwell on the future. The here and now is so pure. Notice how it shows. Climb right out of your skin. Trade your ends for begins. All your best friends dropping in. Yeah, yeah. Starting out from Libby Creek, fell down and got bit. Better walk in the creek and sit. You know how it goes. Starting out from Libby Creek, don't forget who you are here. Far away from the city fear, and notice how it shows. Notice how it shows. There you go. There you go. That's called Notice How It Shows. Yeah, it's from an album called The Water Dance. Yeah. Recorded that album on Libby Creek. My basement on Libby Creek. Oh, man. Those were some days. Those were some days, my friends. Yes, sir, they were. Those were the freshwater days. On the creek, and I lived on Twisp, or about 2 blocks from Twisp River when I lived in Twisp. I miss those rivers, man. I miss them. But it's interesting because when I lived over in the Midtown, I missed the salt water. I did, because I grew up around the salt water. So, you know, how do you decide? I remember driving back, I know I've told this story before, but drive back, I'd get to the top of Stevens Pass and I could smell the salt water when I was driving over this way. Now when I was driving back, I'd get to the top of Stevens Pass, I could smell dirt. I could smell dirt. Yeah, there's something about the smell of that Eastern Washington dirt. I don't know. I don't know. The smell's changed. I was a younger man then, wasn't I? Yeah, I was. Yeah. But I miss the salt water. This is for the Higginses. Heartbreak me back to Summer Island. Map in my mind the Puget Sound. Replay those memories like movies. Restore each frame of dewy ground. Now that my good work's growing weary and my relations growing wings, I will not feel so old and dreary if I can recollect these things. Heartstrings that sing on Summer Island around a fire of salted wood. I hear those melodies receding. I'd run to catch them if I could, before the photos fade completely and all our gardens turn to stones. These friends I'd serenade discreetly to press more love into their bones. Heart warm me home to Summer Island, where my first flare for words was lit. These crooked lines are just a remnant of how they fed and tended it. Now that my good work's growing weary and my relations growing ways, I will not feel so old and dreary if I can recollect these things. Heartbreak me back to Summer Island, map in my mind the Puget Sound, replay those memories like movies, restore each frame of dewy ground, replay those memories like movies. It's kind of like the Blue Spruce Motel. If I picture myself on the beach, then I start to lose it. So I gotta picture Scott, picture Rhonda, picture Ken and Julie, picture Stacy and Dana. Yeah, they're people. I can see faces and not lose it, but if I put myself on the beach near that water, I'm sorry. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Time to rearrange the furniture. On the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe. Ooh. Oh, Jimmy, don't you get that ring. Hey. Sorry about that. Oh. What the heck's going on, Bill? What are you doing? What's that? Poetry break! Poetry break! Poetry break! Poetry break. You know, I wasn't even sure I was going to go a full hour earlier today because of certain creaks and groans and bits of mishap. But you know what? Tonight, it's not poetry. It's prose tonight, folks. It's prose. I'm going to read you some stories. Yes. Some stories. There was a period of my life, and I was living in the Methow at the time when I really got into Donald Hall. Not only his poetry, but his prose. And it started with a book called String Too Short to Be Saved. Oh my. What a great book. Everybody should have a copy in their bookshelf. It's kind of like The Prophet, you know. It's one of those books, you know, that you should just have. So that when you're feeling a certain kind of way, and it happens a lot around the holidays, you're feeling kind of cozy. You know, you feel kind of cozy. And you feel kind of insulated in, and it's warm, and you're reminiscent or something, you know. It's a good time to pull out String Too Short to Be Saved. It's recollections of when Donald Hall was a child. He used to spend every summer at his grandparents' farm in Wilmot, New Hampshire, on Eagle Pond. And his grandfather, he would work with his grandfather haying, he would work with him and all stuff. A horse-drawn carriage, driving to church in a horse-drawn carriage. This was in the 1940s, the early 1940s, during World War II, when there were still horse farmers, in that part of the world, and probably in this part of the world too. So I'm going to read from a couple of different books tonight. I want to read one from Here at Eagle Pond. He's written a few books of essays about Eagle Pond. Oh, look at that. That's a Kelly and Mary original from my 60th birthday. That's the envelope that my birthday card came in for my 60th birthday. That's Kelly and Mary, Kelly Murphy and Mary Lenz. I've been using that as a bookmark in this book because it's a cozy thing. It's cozy. I think cozy kind of goes along with casual. You know, I don't want to push any kind of agenda on you, but this is a very gentle agenda, wouldn't you say? So I want to read one called The Embrace of Old Age. This story happened when Donald Hall was 14 years old, the summer of his 14th year. When I spent my summers here as a boy, my grandparents took me everywhere they went. We had no car. We didn't hitch up the horse to go to a drive-in movie, but we rode behind Riley to church on Sunday morning, and on Sunday night returned in the buggy for Christian endeavor. We attended annual social events, in July the church fair, and in August Old Home Day. Although my grandparents lived without anything that passes for entertainment here in the 90s, that's when this book came out. No car, no television, no VCR, no restaurants, no cocktail parties. They were remarkably cheerful. My grandfather especially had a fortunate temperament. He liked his work, and a little amusement went a long way. Occasionally he hitched up Riley for a special occasion, a family reunion, an auction, an 80th birthday party, a funeral, a long-delayed visit to a dying cousin. When I was 14 years old, we went to Willard and Alice Buzzell's Diamond Wedding Anniversary. Diamond Wedding Anniversary. In preparation, my grandmother made 3 blueberry pies and a bag full of ginger snaps. My grandfather dusted the horse carriage, wiped off the harness, and curried Riley. Because the buggy's iron rims rattled on its wooden wheels, a dry August, we drove it across the railroad tracks to Eagle Pond and urged Riley against his better judgment to wade, pulling the carriage into shallow water. We sat there for a few minutes as I delighted in the strangeness, sitting still in the buggy in the pond's shallows, while the woods swelled tight against the rims. Then we drove back to the farm to dress and set out. Willard and Alice were older than my grandparents, who were in their 60s. I remember the Buzzells from Old Home Day. They were old. Alice had been 17 when she was married, which made her 92 on her 75th wedding anniversary. Willard was exactly 100, married the day he turned 25, which of course made today's celebration double. Diamond wedding anniversaries are rare enough. Today we added a simultaneous 100th birthday party. 3 weekly newspapers sent photographer reporters to the Danbury Grange. Horses and buggies were uncommon on the roads, though horse farmers were not unknown in 1943. The war kept traffic down, but a few dark square cars passed us on Route 4. My grandfather kept the buggy's right wheels on the shoulder, and I watched sand spin off the wheels like 4th of July night works fountains. When we arrived at the Grange Hall, it was decorated red, white, and blue. As we alighted, my grandfather spoke in Riley's ear and tied him loosely to a young maple so that he could bend in his neck and eat grass. Inside, the Grange walls were covered with photographs of past Grange presidents, and there was an American flag beside the stage in the front, the drawn curtain showing a view of Mount Kearsarge, painted by a local artist in 1906. We were early, of course, and so was everyone else. My grandmother cut her pies and set the pieces out on a long table covered with pies and cookies. Willard and Alice's sons, Clarence and Frank, scurried about, old men who moved with sprightly energy of children anxious to please. Then a shout from the door told us the bridal couple had arrived. I looked out to see Willard's Model A parked at the front door, driven by their surviving daughter, Ada. Bride and bridegroom tottered up the steps, walking with canes held in outside hands so they could join inside arms. They gripped each other fiercely, as if each were convinced that the other needed help. Willard looked the frailer as he climbed the Grange steps on his 100th birthday and his 75th wedding anniversary, wavering over the worn wood stairs. As at the open double doors, Clarence and Frank took charge, each grasping one parent, and led them into the hall, where my grandmother at the organ belted out with the wedding march. Now the ancient small parents, in the arms of ancient small sons, with ancient daughter in the rear, walked slowly the length of the hall between the folding chairs set up for the ceremony, waving and acknowledging their waves like conquerors returned from a war that's not over. When Alice and Willard reached the end of the hall, my grandmother's fingers switched to Happy Birthday. Everyone sang while a huge cake, big enough for everyone present, was wheeled into the crowd, topped with 100 candles and the figurines of a bride and groom. Willard and Alice conspired with Ada, Clarence, and Frank to blow out the candles, taking many breaths after a pause for a wish. And I thought, what could they wish for? Not a long life. Maybe for an easy winter? I studied Willard's infirmity. The skin of his hands was brown with liver spots. Flesh hung like turkey wattles from his neck, and everything about him shook. His arms, his head on its frail stem, his bony knees visibly trembling against his trouser legs. I felt horror, as if it were indecent to be alive with no future, each day merely a task for accomplishment. My vision of old age shook me as Willard shook. Our minister, Kate's brother, my Uncle Luther, was host and master of ceremonies for a half hour of reminiscences and songs. The old oaken bucket, when you and I were young, Maggie, down by the old mill stream. Luther read 2 telegrams, one for the wedding and one for the birthday, from President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. When we broke to eat, I heaped my paper plate with hermits and brownies and cherry pie, not forgetting a piece of wedding cake. Returning for seconds, I gathered the last piece of my grandmother's blueberry. Then I was bored. I was rarely bored in my grandparents' company, but today they paid me no mind. They had done introducing me, and I had done with the comments on how tall I was. Now they stood with other old people recollecting together, and I felt separated especially because I understood that I was the only one in the crowd able to see clearly the futility and ugliness of old age. So I prowled around the building, exploring the stage behind the painted curtain, finding a closet full of ancient costumes, trying on a top hat and a derby. Then I opened a door I had not entered before, a green room to the side of the stage, and walked into the dimness without sensing the presence of others. In low light from a shaded window, I saw 2 bodies embracing as they leaned against a wardrobe. I was embarrassed. I thought because notions of embracing had begun to occupy me day and night. I started to back out, then saw it was Willard and Alice who clung to each other, having crept from their thronged relatives and neighbors to this privacy. Their twin canes leaned on a box while their arms engaged each other. For a quick moment it was as if I saw, beyond the ancients in the green room, a young couple, 75 years back, who found a secret place to kiss and hug in. Then I heard what she said. Alice, Alice, Alice. She spoke urgently. Alice, Alice, as if she were warning herself or something. At that moment I felt my grandfather's hand on my shoulder. It was time to go home. He had sought me out, and when I looked up, I saw that he had heard. It was not until we were driving home that he mentioned it. I listened as he spoke, his voice controlled, as if he made a neutral observation about the weather, perhaps, that although the day was bright, he wouldn't be surprised if it rained, saying, "Kate, Willard didn't know who Alice was." There's that one. Now, from that 14-year-old boy, we move to this guy. That's Donald Hall. That's Donald Hall. Ah. This is the cover of a book he put out called Essays After 80. And it was followed by this one, A Carnival of Losses, Notes Nearing 90. So, the tables have turned on the 14-year-old boy. A couple of short essays from this book, which was his final book of prose. It might have been his final book altogether, except maybe a collected poems or something like that that came after. This one's called Open the Damn Door. In 2005, I put a new roof on this house, so he's now living. In 1975, he and his wife, Jane Kenyon, moved into the house that he used to visit in New Hampshire, right? The family homestead. Yeah. In 2005, I put a new roof on this house. Or rather, Steve Colburn did, overseeing a gang that kneeled precariously to remove old shingles and nail on new ones. There was always something. The next winter, snow piled 3 feet thick on the shingles of the barn, which dated from 1865. The old roof sagged and groaned from the snow's weight, and my helpers groaned and sagged as they swept snow to the ground. In June, Steve installed metal over the spongy shingles, so now the snows of winter slide off without being pushed. When my great-grandfather moved here in 1865, he extended this 1803 cape by adding 4 new bedrooms upstairs for his kids, with a kitchen and a tool shed on the ground behind them. Past the tool shed, under the same roof, a small door led to the woodshed, and beyond it to the outhouse, which had collapsed by the time Jane and I arrived in 1975. I loved the skinny maple latch that fastened the door from tool shed to woodshed, its surface shiny from a century of ancestral hands. My great-grandfather was 5'3", so I bent over when I went for wood. At first our only heat came from firewood. All winter I carried armfuls into the wood stoves, 12 loads a day, 7 cords a winter. After 10 years we put in central heat, and decades later Steve took down the woodshed, replacing it with a garage. He planned to heighten my great-grandfather's low door, but I wanted to stoop for my great-grandfather's sake. In time I stooped anyway. It was 3 steps down from the tool shed to the garage floor, so Steve put in a cement incline that eased me down. Without subjecting myself to snow or rain, I could walk from my living room through the kitchen and tool shed down to the Honda. The last thing Steve added was an electric garage door. As I bent into my new garage, I pressed a button on the wall to roll up the door, then drove to the bookstore in New London or to Crescenti's supermarket for a jar of mustard. When you work all day doing one thing, like writing books, you need to take breaks. Years earlier, when I lived in a city, I parallel parked, but after 3 decades of Route 4, I had forgotten how to aim a car backward. Leaving my house for a doctor's appointment, I snapped a side mirror off. My dealer charged $150 to replace it. That wasn't the worst thing. One Sunday morning, I felt like going to church, and it was almost 11. I hurried to the car and backed out, neglecting to open the door. The collision was minimal, but the door bulged and stuck. No car, no church. I telephoned Steve. He pulled into the driveway and lifted the door up. "Brute strength," said Carol, who accompanied him, but the door would no longer close by pressing a button. Steve would come back tomorrow with tools. I missed church, but I drove to Crescenti's for a jar of pickled onions. 2 weeks later, I backed into it again. Steve had to buy me a new door. My assistant, Kendall, typing, bookkeeping, everything, painted "open door" above the proper button. Steve installed a pad underfoot that opened the door when I stepped on it. I forgot to step on it, and 3 weeks later backed into the door again. Winter came, and when it snowed, I remembered to open the door, but in February thaw, I knocked it into the front yard. While Steve ordered yet another door, Kendall painted large letters on the garage's back wall in front of me as I climbed behind the wheel. "Open the damn door!" Later still, she put reminders on the steering wheel and the dashboard, and Carol installed a bell that tinkled as I clambered down the ramp, except that I ducked. Then I totaled my car on Route 4 and lost my license. No more car, no more driving into the garage door. It was a relief, but I never bought pickled onions or mustard again. Yeah. Now, one more, okay? One more. I love this story. This is a success story, okay? All right? It's called Walking to Portsmouth. My cousin Paul Fenton, his mother was my grandfather's sister, was a dairy farmer, tall and lean, a Democrat who sometimes taught agriculture at the state college and who loved to tell stories. Back in the 30s and 40s, on Sundays, people with cars visited people who didn't have cars. My grandparents had Riley, the lame horse. The older callers had grown up before radio, when living room tales or recitations had been everybody's entertainment. The middle-aged and the young paid silent attention to stories, and when the old ones died, I thought the countryside would lose its stories along with its storytellers. But when Jane and I moved to the New Hampshire farm in 1975, neighbors and family still came calling in the afternoon. No work on Sunday, no church after the noontime dinner, and they had done 30 years earlier, when I spent childhood summers here with my grandparents. The mute Middle Agers of my childhood had become the old storytellers. One Sunday afternoon the first year, Paul Fenton and his wife Bertha came calling. Paul sat on the sofa across from Jane and me while Bertha spoke of her farmer son. Looking at Paul, I saw his mouth curl up at the corners. He had thought of a story. When Bertha finished speaking, Paul said, "Did you ever hear the one about the fella? Lived round here. Every year in October he loaded his cart with everything the farm and family'd made all year, homespun, maple syrup, linen, maybe mutton, maybe mittens, vinegar, and walked by his ox all the way to Portsmouth. He sold everything from the cart. Then he sold the cart." He paused. "Then he sold the ox. When the ox cart man sold his ox, my spine went electric." Paul kept on and told how the ox cart man brought presents home for the family, walking with a bundle on a stick over his shoulder. The next morning I started a short poem called Ox Cart Man. After 6 months, I thought I'd finished it. The farmer walked home from Portsmouth in October, and in May began putting things together for next fall's journey. I sold the poem to the New Yorker and sent carbon copies to friends. The response was good, but my poet friend Lewis Simpson saw something wrong. He told me to cut the last stanza of the poem, where the ox cart man back home started to undertake the next autumn's repetitive shape. As soon as the farmer returned from market to his young ox in the barn, the cycle was obvious. I cut the repetitive tasks and tried the revision on the New Yorker. They liked it. They thought maybe there was something wrong at the end. Here's the finished poem. In October of the year, he counts potatoes dug from the brown field, counting the seed, counting the seller's portion out, and bags the rest on the cart's floor. He packs wool sheared in April, honey in combs, linen, leather tanned from deer hide, and vinegar in a barrel hooped by hand at the forge's fire. He walks by his ox's head 10 days to Portsmouth market, and sells potatoes and the bag that carried potatoes, flaxseed, birch brooms, maple sugar, goose feathers, yarn. When the cart is empty, he sells the cart. When the cart is sold, he sells the ox, harness and yoke, and walks home, his pockets heavy with the year's coin for salt and taxes. And at home by fire's light in November cold, stitches new harness for next year's ox in the barn, and carves the yoke and saws planks, building the cart again. Not long after the magazine printed the poem, my daughter Philippa visited us from college, 19 years old. She was resting on the sofa as I walked toward my workroom, and a thought burst into my head. Paul Fenton's story could make a children's book. Did I think of it because I remembered reading picture books to Philippa? In 45 minutes at my desk, I wrote a draft. The next afternoon, I took it up again. I needed to imagine the ox-cart man's world, and decided he lived in 1800. There would be no trains. The railroad came through here in 1848, and I knew about dirt roads. What did Portsmouth look like? If the farmer brought things home for his wife and children, what would he bring? My picture book would need a wife and children. Beside me at my desk was a treasury of New England folklore. I found a drawing of old Portsmouth. Brick houses and no electric lines or telephones. Its harbor, bigger back then than Boston's, was crowded with sailing ships. The ox-cart man brought home convenient objects manufactured not in the infant United States, but in England. When someone asked me about how I write, I brag about my numerous drafts and the months it takes to revise, but writing this picture book took me about 3 hours. I broke the prose sentences into lines so that it looked like a poem, which it wasn't. By visibly separating phrases of my sentences, I slowed the story down. And for his daughter he brought an embroidery needle that came from a boat in the harbor that had sailed all the way from England. And for his son he brought a Barlow knife for carving birch brooms with. And for the whole family he bought 2 pounds of wintergreen peppermint candies. Early in the book I listed one by one the items that the ox-cart man put in his cart, and in Portsmouth I had him remove them for sale in the opposite order. I made a mistake in my listing. The ox-cart man put linen in the cart, but he never took it out. School children wrote to ask me what happened to the linen. I told them it was a long walk to Portsmouth, and the ox got hungry. For the picture book, I added to the story something that never would have happened. Modern kids would be shocked when the man sold his ox as if he peddled his pet spaniel, yet selling the ox was the climax of the story, so I had the ox cart man kiss his ox goodbye. My illustrator seized the opportunity. Years later, the children's television show Reading Rainbow showed its viewers the slobbering muzzle of a real ox. When I finished the manuscript, I sent it to my literary agent, who tried the book on my regular publisher. Immediately, Harper & Row turned it down. My agent tried the Viking Press, and immediately they took it. Viking wrote to me asking if Barbara Cooney would do as an illustrator. Thank goodness she took it on. She visited Portsmouth, almost intact from 1800, and painted it without electric wires. In old photographs she looked at, a brace of oxen pulled a cart. She couldn't find a picture of a cart with only one ox, and asked me if I could describe a one-ox arrangement. I helped her out. My cousin, Freeman Morrison, long dead, had lived in a shack on Ragged Mountain and kept a beloved ox named George Washington. Freeman liked to pose for a picture with George pulling his ox cart. I mailed Barbara Cooney my 1939 Kodak Brownie snapshot of Freeman standing beside his single ox cart. The book was published one November in an edition of 20,000 copies. In January, it became known that it would receive the Caldecott, the major prize for picture books, and Viking printed another 80,000 copies, a representation of the Caldecott medal imprinted on each jacket. Sales were astonishing. I have no notion of how many copies have sold over the years. First, the hardback paid not only for our groceries, but for our mortgage. It also bought something even more important. Jane and I had loved living in the old farmhouse together from the moment we moved in, but its old bathroom was deplorable. In 1938, with the help of Sears Roebuck, my grandparents had replaced the outhouse with a cold, spidery, dusty bathroom, its bathtub the size of its toilet bowl, accessible only from the dining room. Jane and I decided that we would make a splendid bathroom where our old bedroom was and add a new bedroom to the back of the house, if ever we had enough money. Nailed above the entrance to the new bathroom is a plaque, The Caldecott Room. The book came out in paperback. The text was much translated. To my surprise, a Japanese edition went into printing after printing. During the Cold War, the State Department sent Jane and me to Japan to read our poems and talk about American poetry. Therefore, I was introduced not only as a poet, but as the author of a children's book. In Sapporo, for a poetry reading, my host had me read the book in English. Then he read aloud the Japanese translation. Later, it was a bestseller in South Korea. Still later, a continual smash hit in China. In my late 80s, I pay for a new rollator and my lean cuisines with South Asian royalties. Thanks to Tim Fenton, who smiled as he remembered a story. I should have kissed him on the muzzle. The late, great Donald Hall. There you go. There you go. Okay, time to rearrange the picture. Sorry. I love that stuff. You know, I spent most of a year just diving into Donald Hall, his poetry and prose. I think it was while we were on Libby Creek. So there you go. String is too short to be saved is a great place to start. Yeah. I think I got a few more in me here, folks. We might go a little long tonight. Here I was thinking that I was, we might only go a half an hour or something, because, yeah. I think the pain in my neck might have been just a rumor. Might be psychosomatic or something. Cindy Snyder still here? Still here, Cindy? Well, damn right, baby, I'm tight. I plan to stay that way for the rest of the night. There ain't enough on the news to tell who's wrong and who's right. I did a little drinking so I could stop thinking, and now I drink, you think too much. all of this is just a mirage. The military complex, the mortar barrage. Step into my new mental montage. Well, I did a little drinking so I could stop thinking, and now I drink, you think too much. Well, I was thinking about the Russians again. It's a confrontation, nobody wins. And the next thing I knew, I was diluting my vodka with gin. Now don't try to argue with me. I turned off my head when I turned on the TV. I'm gonna sprout some roots and make like a tree. Well, I did a little drinking so I could stop thinking, and now I drink, you think too much. Well, I was thinking about the CIA. It's a symptom of moral decay. Now you're lying in bed and you still gotta watch what you say. Now baby, I think you understand how a thinking man's head can get all out of hand. Well, I got no solutions, but I did have a plan. Well, I did a little drinking so I could stop thinking, and now I drink, you think too much. Well, I did a little drinking so I could stop thinking, and now I drink, you think too much. Ooh. The hands stiffened up a little bit when I was reading there. Should have taken a minute to warm up there, Bill. Oh well. Oh well. It's casual. Casual and cozy. Cozy and casual. The cozy casualness. The casual coziness. Oh, yes. Yes, my friends. Okay. You know, you have a tuner here, Bill. Oh, yeah. No, I'm a professional. I don't need no sneaking tuner. Come on, tuner. Don't fail me now. I think I pissed it off. Oh, jeez. Here we go. Okay. All right, Bill. I'm sure that was very entertaining. Yeah. There's a man with a two-headed heart down there, standing by the road in his underwear. He's making quite a scene, but he doesn't seem to care. The man with the two-headed heart's down there. There's a man with a two-headed heart close by, looking out for love 'cause he doesn't want to die, pointing with his thumb towards the southern sky. The man with the two-headed heart's close by. There's a man with a two-headed heart I met, standing by the eaves so we wouldn't get wet. I don't know where I'm going, but I'll get there yet, said the man with the two-headed heart I met. There's a man with a two-headed heart outside. He's been there all day, but he hasn't got a ride. His thumb is sagging, but his smile is wide. The man with the two-headed heart's outside. There's a man with a two-headed heart in here. He looked a little lonely, so I offered him a beer. Says he's gotta go and the road is clear. The man with the two-headed heart's in here. In here. There's a man with a two-headed heart down there, standing by the road in his underwear. He's making quite a scene, but he doesn't seem to care. The man with the two-headed heart's down there, down there. Close by, close by. Outside, in here, in here. Didn't stick to the ending. Oh well, what are you gonna do? The pinky. The pinky. Lot rides on the pinky. Let's just stop and think about that for a moment. Okay, that's long enough. All righty. How about a big finish, Bill? Big finish. What do you got? Nothing? All right, forget about it. How about a small finish? How about a medium-sized finish? How about any kind of finish? Hello? Anybody? I had one in mind. Really, just a moment ago. Yes. No. Maybe. What was I thinking? Okay, right. Yes, Bill. Well, do another one while you're trying to think of the one you were going to do. I had it. It's going to be great. Oh, well, now it'll be just mediocre maybe or something. It'll just be kind of, sort of, maybe even. Well, we could do... No. Oh, sure, now the tuner works. Just kidding. Buddy. Pal. Let's see. Darn it. I thought it was one of the ones that was on the list, and now I'm looking at the list and the song is not on there. That's kind of scary. It's kind of scary. It's not that scary, but it's kind of scary. So here's a song I wrote when I was in a lot of pain. You know. This is called Hymn to the Muse. Written right there, looking out that window right there. Just a few lines of glory from a cloth pocket man. He's walking by the lakeside with a smooth rock in his hand. He's fallen far behind the ones who ride the public air to the place where they'll be dining and forget that he is there. Through doorways that are splintered, he rushes with his pen. To the diamond mines of poetry he falls with other men. And as morning's rainy echo strikes a pose for him to see, he drops down into mercy, folds his hands and takes a knee. Just a few lines of glory from a broken little hole, that string of ones and zeros we used to call the soul. He's ready to be called out for the things he couldn't say. There were deadfalls on the switchbacks that he couldn't clear away. Through thickets full of needles he rushes with his pen. Through the clear cuts of poetry he hikes with other men. And as daylight's redemption strikes a pose for him to see, he dips down into thankful, folds his hands and takes a knee. Just a few lines of glory to be read out when he's gone, from the second-hand store table that he built his days upon, from the dome below his desk lamp where he last called out to her, to the trellis of his pages and of what he thought they were, to the dark he'll never speak of, he rushes with his pen. Toward the sunrise of poetry he rides with other men. And if no one ever finds him or what he tried to be, may they all stand here and wonder, fold their hands, take a knee. There you go. Okay, I remembered what it was. The song. This is a song by a fella named Jim Moore, who used to come around and sing in all the churches when I was young. Churches in Tacoma, Spokane, around in there. You might remember Jim Moore? Yeah. He's a great songwriter. And I very much liked him. He was the first guy I saw who was strumming with finger picks, if I recall correctly. He used to come to our summer camp and sing a few times too. I liked his stuff. I was only ever able to learn one of his songs, so if any of you out there happen to have a copy of Right at the Light in your possession, well then, you'll remember this one. Well, did you ever hear the story about the Narrows Bridge? I'll try to tell you if I can. It was built in Tacoma of Washington to realize a dream of man. A dream that meant they could twist some steel between two shores of sand. And out of all the bridges in the whole Northwest, it would be the greatest span. But then the wind came, storm brewed, and blew that bridge around. And when the mighty kind came for its test of strength, it plunged into the Puget Sound. Now on stormy day, when the bridge took its dive, it was more than anyone could believe, 'cause they thought that bridge was constructed to last, and its fate they could never conceive. 'Cause it was built by the men who raised the Golden Gate, and they bragged about their second try. But when the wind whipped the girders of Gertie, she swayed till she rippled like a flag in the sky. And then the wind came, the storm brewed, and blew that bridge around. And when the mighty time came for its test of strength, it plunged into the Puget Sound. Now the secret of the fall of this beautiful bridge, the secret of the fall of mankind, made it's built to look good, feeble inside, a future full of trouble you find. And like the story in the Bible where the man builds a house on the sand and washes away. Well, the wise man builds his house on a rock and it lives to see another day. 'Cause when the wind comes, the storm brews and blows that man around, he will welcome that mighty test of strength 'cause he built on solid ground. Yes, the wind came, the storm brewed and blew that bridge around. And when the mighty time came for its test of strength, it turned into the Puget Sound. Big finish there, Bill. Big finish. Ooh, that was big. Big time finish. Yes, friends. Well, a program that we thought would be short turned out to be long. Thanks to you. You know, when I first started doing these, online things, I was thinking, it's not the same because, I'm not getting that vibe back from the audience, But I think we've all evolved a little bit since back in, when was it, April 2nd, when I did the first one of these with Marjorie Richards and Nancy Reinhold. We've all evolved. You guys have gotten better at sending it. And I've actually kind of developed some kind of new sensory kind of situation where I can feel it. And that's great. I love that. I don't ever want to be without that, which is why I keep coming back every Tuesday. And I hope that you do too. Really, really, truly. You're saving me. I hope I'm helping some. So this will be up on YouTube with all the rest of them sometime, probably tomorrow afternoon sometime. So if you want to watch it again, head over to YouTube, or you can watch it here on Facebook too. That way, if you do it on Facebook, then you can see all the comments going by again. Either way, take care of each other. I got the hand covered, and she's got me covered. So we're good. You guys be good too, okay? Thank you very much.